What's going on, everybody? It's the NBA Guru Show. I'm Zach. This is Naf. We're doing a special Sacramento Kings preview for the season, and we got a special guest, former D1 Hooper of the American University, co-host of the Game Theory podcast with Sam Vicini, co-host the Pistons Pulse, high school coach, runs the Motor City Hoop Substack. He does it all. Bryce Simon, thanks for coming on the show, man.
What's up, guys? I think that's the first time. I've had some pretty good intros, but that's the first time that they actually shouted out the university that I played college hoops for. So you guys will always ring true moving forward as the podcast that went all the way in. I'm excited to be here, excited to talk some Sacramento Kings.
Have you ever done like a King-centric podcast or show, something like that?
No, I mean, obviously, as people know over on Game Theory, we do the general NBA draft, and we talk about the Kings rather frequently, but this is my first I've been on some team specific podcasts over the last couple of years since I started doing Game Theory, but this is my first Kings one, so I'm excited.
Awesome. We're excited. Yeah, we're excited to have you. We'll get right into it. We're not high on this team. We know you guys aren't high on this team. We got tempered expectations going in. One of your last shows, you guys did the over unders. You guys had the under on the 35.5 on the Kings. So let's just start there. Walk us through that. What's your outlook on the team, and why'd you guys think under on the 35.5?
Yeah, so I want to be clear. First and foremost, I like a lot of the individual players on this team, guys. Like I truly do. I'm not trying to come on a Kings podcast and like endear myself and keep myself off Kings Reddit and all of that. But like I truly enjoy Zach LaVine as a player. Sabonis has a fun skill set. You guys know this. You listen to Game Theory. Malik Monk is probably one of my top 5 players in the NBA. I talk about him all the time. We've been talking Keegan Murray. I have an appreciation for Dennis Schroeder after what he did in Detroit last year. Devin Carter. Game Theory is a Devin Carter podcast. Yep. And then I liked your guys' draft with Nique, Clifford, and either Maxime Raynaud. The problem is I just don't think it all fits together. And, I was thinking about this today as I was coming on the podcast where I don't love how the Raptors roster fits together. But in the East, I'm taking the over and talking about them in the play-in game. The Kings, it's kind of the same idea. It's just they're in the West. And so when you don't really love a roster, you don't think it meshes well. And I'm not quite sure what the identity is in the Western Conference. It's just hard to think they're going to get somewhere close to 38, 40 wins. And I guess ultimately that's why I went on the under.
Yeah. We kind of know, the pieces don't fit. And like if there's only one, there's only one ball, the offense might not click as well as the organization thinks. We kind of know what like it'll look like if like they're like a bottom 4 or 5 team in the West. What do you think? Like, give us like the pathway if like things kind of go well and we might be in that play-in, maybe 6, 7, 8 type. Is there a pathway for that? How would that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think we would have to look at some teams in the West and just injuries or whatever, right? Like the Clippers are old. I was watching a preseason Clippers game today, and while I think that team is super talented and super deep, they have 8 players 31 years or older, right? So like, is there a path to them being injured? The Warriors are an older team, like whatever. These teams that above them, I think for Sacramento, it just has to be offensive driven. Don't you guys think? I just don't see where this is a good defensive team based on the roster right now. But if you told me LaVine and DeRozan and Schroeder and Russ and these guys somehow figure out some sort of offensive chemistry and they're a top 10 offense and that drives them enough to be in the play-in, I suppose that's the argument for that path.
Yeah. I think like they basically pretty much got to be top 10 in offense and like maybe around like 20th in defense for them to be kind of around there. Would that be fair? Or like, yeah.
Those were the numbers in my head.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you guys think they can be top? Do we even think they have 20th in defense? Here's the funny thing, guys, is like I like Keegan defensively. I like Keon defensively. I don't even know if Devin Carter's in the rotation or not. Like Schroeder defends a little bit, but I don't know that they have the dudes to. I don't know. Like, it'd be scary to even predict that. I feel better again about like just saying, hey, like maybe this is a top 10 offense than even saying that it's better than a top or a bottom 10 defense, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think, like you said, it's gonna have to be shootouts. They'll have to win every game like 120 to 115, I guess. And yeah, I mean, I went under too. Zach, I think you went over on the Kings.
I think I might have said like 36. Just
Oh,
maybe
okay.
Vegas knows a little bit more than us. Type, they never. You
Okay.
never know.
Yeah, no, but I agree. I think that you kind of mentioned it, like they have a super crowded backcourt with like Levine, DeMar, Schroeder, Malik, Keon, and they just brought in Westbrook. So I think the problem with that is, he's gonna be taking minutes away from guys like Keon and Devin Carter, which is just gonna make their defense even worse. And you mentioned it. You guys love Devin Carter on the Game Theory podcast. 23 years old. He only played 11 minutes per game last year. So I don't know, like we don't understand sort of the direction in that. I personally think that he's sort of going to be a trade candidate because the previous regime is who drafted him. So I wouldn't be surprised if he got traded this season. But what do you think about Devin Carter and how like after his rookie season? I think or like specifically with his shot too. I mean, he has I don't know, the mechanics of his shot has changed, I feel like, since he was at Providence. But yeah, if you could just speak a little on Devin Carter and why you guys love him so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the defense, the athleticism, and that last year at Providence, he shot the ball really well. And I just remember like him making big shots. Now, you're absolutely right. Like the mechanics are like funky, like they're
Right.
weird. And, like I've tried to learn as a evaluator. Like this was the Tyrese Halliburton thing, right? Tyrese
Right.
Halliburton shoots the ball weird. Like, I think we would all agree, but he's figured it out. Devin has like this moon ball shot. And if you look at the college numbers, guys, 27% as a freshman, 30% as a sophomore, and then he ballooned to 38% on over 6.5 attempts as a junior that final year at Providence. The free throw percentage also improved. So, one, we only had 1 year of quality shooting, so that could be an answer. But the other thing is we saw growth every single year. And I think that's maybe something I buy in, is that Devin Carter is going to continue to work and grow and improve. And it seems like the Kings are in a situation where they should be giving opportunities to those guys, not bringing in the Russell Westbrook. And this isn't like Russell Westbrook hate. I respect Russell Westbrook's place in NBA history, and even what he can kind of still provide a team in terms of competitiveness and energy. You touched on something real quick. I want to go back to Zach. You asked, how do they get to I do think there's a world where they thread the needle with the correct trades, keeping the right guys, young guys and older, and maybe make some trades that bring in a more well-rounded roster. I don't know if they can thread that needle in season, but I suppose there is that needle to be threaded that could put them in a better situation as well.
Yeah. So on the show, we're all about predictions. So I just wanted to ask you, do you think Devin Carter will be on the team by the end of, next summer? What do you think? Or do you think
So not deadline. You're asking next
not
summer.
deadline? Yeah, at the end of next summer 2026. So going into next season.
I mean, I feel like they haven't prioritized him.
Right.
Is that fair to say, between Schroeder and Russ? So I guess the smart money would be on that he is moved in some capacity, maybe as part of a bigger deal. Maybe he's attached to a Levine or a DeRozan or something, as something that's a little more enticing. I don't know. So I listen to the Hoop Collective a lot, and they have a phrase on there I really love, which is actions over words, right? Teams tell you what with their actions over their words. And I feel like the Kings' actions, not being someone that's, super close, are that they may not prioritize him a whole bunch. So yeah, maybe I would go with that. He's not going to be there, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, because there was murmurs like that his camp was very upset after the Westbrook signing, and like it's kind of tough because I don't think he was going to get that many minutes before Westbrook was on, but then after Westbrook it was like, yeah, this is not going anywhere.
Yeah. And he was also dangled in the Kuminga sign and trade.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that you're right. The smart money's definitely on him not being on the team after next summer.
And we've seen some teams, like these teams were in different situations. They're way better than where Sacramento is, but like we've seen the Houston Rockets get off Cam Whitmore, right? And the Thunder got off Dylan Jones, and like those teams are in different situations in terms of they're actually competitive. And obviously Thunder, not just a title contender, a champion.
Yeah.
But so I think it really depends on where Sacramento decides they are after the deadline and after the offseason. Are they still, I guess, quote unquote, going for it, which like they're trying to right now, even though it's not successful? Or do they trade off all of these guys and lean into, let's play Nique Clifford and again, I'm gonna throw out Maxime Raynaud. I love Maxime Raynaud. I realize he's a second round pick and all of that, and Keon Ellis and Keegan and all of that. Then maybe in that world, Devin does stay around because they're leaning in to this younger group of players.
Yeah, and they've done that too with Davion Mitchell. That's another guy that they sort of jumped off ship early.
Yeah. Turned into a good player.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, another guard that we've kind of been talking about, Keon Ellis. He's extension eligible like February 9th is what we've been reading. Do you think Kings fans should be worried about like him getting extended? Like we think he's like a good player and stuff like that. We want him to stay and he's a good asset. But do you think like the Kings organization doesn't prioritize him, or what do you think about him?
I mean, so listen, Keon is one of the players that I get very frustrated with. So I'll just lay it out. My frustration is I just think Keon makes so much sense in the starting lineup. I think it slots everybody else into the role they need to be in. I think it allows, I think the person that helps the most is Keegan. I really like Keegan Murray, guys. I truly do. I don't think Keegan should be taking the primary defensive matchup night in and night out. I think Keegan's a really good player. I think he's a really good defender. But I think if Keon is in the starting lineup and he's taking those defensive matchups, Keegan can guard the second best player on the other team. And I think he's going to be even better defensively doing that and have more energy for the offensive end, where maybe we see that 3-point percentage trend back in the correct direction. Maybe we see a little bit more off the bounce and all of that. And so with that said, I think Keon is a very valuable player considering his defense, considering where he's at as a 3-point shooter. I mean, what are we talking? 43% on 4 attempts. He played 80 games last year. I know we have a somewhat small sample size, but he's taken 500 threes at this point in his NBA career, and he's made them at 43%. Plus he defends. That's a player you want to keep in your organization. Like that's a player that they absolutely should be looking to extend when the time comes, as long as his side and his camp is at a reasonable number.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. He's sort of like a perfect 3-and-D. He could be like he's very underrated because he plays in Sacramento, so people don't really know. But he could be a guy that like comes in and helps like a playoff team right away. I think, especially in the playoffs. Do you think that if the Kings somehow, eventually decide to rebuild this summer and just blow it up, do you think that they should maybe, if they do sign him to an extension, like maybe they should be able to look to move off him and get assets for him? Or do you think that they should use him to build around for the future?
Yeah, I would keep him. Listen, guys, you guys probably are aware of this, but I went through, as a podcaster, I went through this, right? I started doing podcasting in 2020, exclusively doing the Pistons Pulse, the Pistons podcast that I do. And that's all I knew till last year, where they finally won, some games and were competitive. Here's what I will tell people. The biggest thing I learned from that is you learn nothing about your young players if you don't have real NBA talent around them, and especially floor spacing. The thing about Keon is not only would he provide that for you to evaluate a guy like Devin Carter, a guy like Keegan Murray, a draft pick, whatever you're doing, but he's also good on the defensive end. So let's say you get a young big, right? If you don't have a perimeter defender that can navigate ball screens, it's hard to evaluate that young big on the defensive end. And so I just think Keon, you mentioned it, Nap, like 30 teams in the NBA can use Keon Ellis's. Why? Unless it's just like a Godfather offer, right? Like if somebody's going to give you 2 first-round picks for Keon Ellis or something crazy, I'm keeping that man on my team, especially if I can get him at a reasonable number.
Yeah, we're right.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, like, I mean, the debate for it is like, hey, the counter, like, hey, the Kings aren't going to be like, let's say they start over and the Kings are going to be rebuilding for the next 3 years or something like that. And he's more of like a 3-and-D win now type player. And like, would you trade him for like some upside, like someone that could be a star? Like two
Sure.
firsts, yeah, something like that would be good. But like, yeah, that would be the counter that we were kind of thinking of.
No, that's fair. I mean, there are deals out there that would make sense to me.
Mhm.
I think when teams go into a rebuild, at times, I'll give you a good example. I
Mhm.
think Chris Middleton and CJ McCollum are very important for the Washington Wizards this year.
Mhm.
Not because it matters how many games the Washington Wizards win, but
Right.
because in games where those two guys don't play, they don't have any resemblance of a number one, number two, number three scoring option on their team. So now it's going to be a bunch of young guys playing in roles way above what they should be. And a lot of times you end up not even getting good evaluation from that. And so I think a Keon Ellis provides floor spacing for a young ball handler. He provides defensive infrastructure for a young group of guys that need to learn how to defend. I think you have to be careful about getting rid of all of those players. Now, if you have Keegan and you have Nique and you have Devin Carter still, maybe one of those guys is expendable and maybe Keon would be the one that could get you the best return.
Mhm.
Right. And he's only 25 too, so he's not like he's 28,
Sure.
29. So
Yeah.
he could be part of the rebuild. He could
Yeah.
fit the timeline if they do decide to rebuild. So yeah, definitely agree with you on that.
So the Kings just signed Doug Christie to like a 2-year, $2 million a year each contract, and the third year is a team option. What's your gauge on like Doug Christie as a coach? If you have like any information.
Yeah, I mean, coaching stuff is hard sometimes. But I think this is a huge year for him because, like we said, this roster is interesting. And so I am really going to be locked in on what kind of offensive actions are they running or how is he utilizing these guys? And then here's the thing. If they do finish top 20 defensively, I got to give credit somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Because I
That's
can't sit here on October 20th and
Hmm.
say, hey, I don't see how this team can be better than the bottom third defensively. And then they come in 17th and not give credit to the coaching staff in some extent, right? So I think Christie can really show his ability as a coach this year with a roster that a lot of us think is flawed and is somewhat heavy in terms of a lot of guys that want to play on ball that aren't great off the ball. And if you can show a way to make that work and get them to defend at a decent level, I think that shows yourself as a coach.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
100%.
So I wanted to ask
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
about Keegan Murray.
Yeah.
We mentioned him. You're super high on him. We had a debate about his contract. I know you guys talked about it recently on the Game
Yeah.
Theory pod, but I just wanted to now with these recent contracts, especially with like Shaden Sharp and Tumani Kamara. So when the contract first came out, we're like, okay, this is a good. I mean, we personally wouldn't have won higher than 25 million per year. We're like, $3 million at Sacramento. You're gonna have to, free agents don't come to Sacramento, so his agent did a great job getting that number. But now after seeing those contracts, we've had talks with debates with friends that like maybe this is a little more overvalued than initially thought. So yeah, do you have it like is your opinion changed on that, or is it just do you have any other
It
thoughts on the
has. It
contract?
has.
Oh yeah,
This is the question I knew we were going to get into, and maybe this is a little unfair. So when the contract came out,
right,
I think my thought was this is fine. I
right,
wasn't like I'll be like just for your listeners when the Tumani Kamara we were live whenever that dropped. I
uh-huh,
think that's an incredible deal. Like I
yeah,
think that's an awesome contract. And so now as that deal has dropped and the Christian Brown deal has dropped
mm-hmm.
and the Dyson
Dyson
Daniels
Daniels,
deal
right,
has dropped and Keegan's over all of those
yeah,
guys, I have had to reevaluate. And I had some Kings fans in our comments on Twitter like this is an overpay. And listen, I was listening to it. Like
yeah,
I understood it. They weren't coming in disrespectful or whatever. They were just like, hey, they felt like it was an overpay. I thought it was okay, but when you see how these other deals got done or where they got done at, I do think that Sacramento probably gave a little more than what they should have, or maybe they should have negotiated a little harder or waited it out or whatever. I think ultimately what it comes down to is Keegan has to really show growth. I think those other guys we mentioned, if they're essentially the same players we've seen so far, those deals are going to be fine. I think Keegan's deal is you got to get closer back to your rookie year 3-point percentage and maybe even show a little bit more offensive game, like off the bounce, which in fairness to him, he doesn't really get a chance to do. Yeah, exactly. And be good defensively still. So I think Keegan has some stuff to prove to make this a good contract in light of how some of these other ones have come down.
Okay, well, I was just gonna make so for a counter for that, what would the 5th year, is that important? And having that 5th year, and as far as his his offense, I feel like he's more of a balanced player than the other guys that just got set, the 25, 24, whatever it was. So I guess those two points I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, I think when you can get a guy locked in for 5 years, and I don't think that has a player. I was just looking on Spot Track. You guys are probably a little tighter to this. Has any like player option, team option stuff come out?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So like just in terms of being able to lock that in, whenever you look at percentage of the cap, it never gets over 15.5%. Again, I think it's going to be fine. Like I think it's going to be okay. I think Toumani Camara is a better defender, like to be fair.
Yeah.
And Toumani also does shoot it well on is developing there, like his 3-point percentage and all of that. Dyson is a better defender, at least in terms, definitely.
Yes.
And then like the defensive disruption and all of that. Christian Braun is tough because I love Christian Braun, but there's also like the Jokic factor of some of that as well. So I was trying to think, like, if I had to rank these players, where would Keegan be? And even if I ranked him first, I don't think it's so much ahead of the guys that I feel like he should be. At the end of the day, it is only $3 or $4 million a year, but we know this day and age, how often do we hear about a team being $1 million away from the first apron, or $1 million away from the tax, or $2 million away from the second apron? And so I do just wonder if we look back at some point and we're like, man, the Kings could really use that $3 or $4 million on each of those years on the Keegan Murray deal.
Yeah.
All right, so here's a different direction on a question we got. For the Kings, there's no really direction right now, like we've been talking about. You're Scott Perry. The Kings aren't looking too good the first 20 to 25 games. They have a very tough schedule to start the year. Like by the end of November, they play like OKC 3 times, Denver 3 times, Minnesota 3 times. They got like a Spurs game, a Hawks, Bucks, Warriors, Lakers, Memphis twice. That's all by the end of November.
Wow.
What moves are you trying to do with this team if you can? And like if it's like this by the end of November, beginning December, what's your logic?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this today as well, because I figured we would go down this path. And so here's my thing, guys. Let's say they go into like a soft rebuild. Let's say they're a soft rebuild. Who's the player of Sabonis, LaVine, DeMar, I get? Is there one of those guys you would like to keep that you think could lead them into the next, could stay through the transition into the next iteration of this Kings team?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Okay, so I don't think so. DeMar's too old, right? Like we can just scrap that.
Right.
Yep.
And I don't know, like you've tried the Sabonis thing. I love Zach LaVine, but is he like your number one option? So here was what I was thinking. And God, Kings fans are going to hate me. But I think one of the hardest places to be in the NBA is without a number one option, or without your path to a number one option. Right. Like, I'm not trying to say the Wizards are in a better place than the Sacramento Kings. I'm not trying to say that, but like, we all know what the Wizards' path right now is to a number one option, right? It's lose a bunch of games and draft Darren Peterson or AJ DeBanza or Cam Boozer, or Trey Johnson becomes that, right? The Brooklyn Nets, we all know their path to a number one option. I'll be a homer here. Even Detroit Pistons. I don't know what they're going to be, but they have Cade Cunningham. I think the scary thing for Sacramento right now is you don't have the number one option on your team. And my question to you guys would be, what is their path to going and getting that guy? Can they consolidate contracts and trade for it? Can they lose enough to draft it? Like, if I'm Scott Perry, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Do I think Sabonis or LaVine are my number one option moving forward? No. Then what are they doing here? And how do I maneuver myself to get in position to draft or acquire the number one guy for my franchise?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're just preaching to the choir here. We've been advocating for rebuild, blowing up. Even last year when they snuck into the play-in, we wanted them because their pick was top 14 protected to not make the play-in so that they could keep that pick. They eventually ended up losing that pick, having to trade back into the draft, drafted Nique Clifford, of course. But yeah, I think that that's the only pathway. I think that they essentially just have to tank. I mean, there's no other way. No one. I mean, if you look at LaVine's contract, do you think that contract? I don't know if anyone's going to take on that contract because it's so big. Do you think maybe if they wait till next year and it becomes an expiring, do you think that's really the only pathway they can trade LaVine? Same with Sabonis. I mean, he's at like 50 million, 52 million, and he has 3 years left on his deal. So these contracts, especially like you mentioned with the new CBA, are going to be super almost impossible to get rid of. So do you just have to wait until they're expiring deals, or because I don't know any team that's going to would personally take on these deals.
Yeah, I mean, DeRozan's is the most palatable money wise.
Right.
Yeah. The interesting thing, especially about Sabonis and even DeRozan to an extent, is like you have to find the right spots as well, right? Like with Sabonis, it's not even just the money, it's
play style. Yeah,
his style of play.
You
can't just send him to any one of the other 29 teams in the league because those rosters have to make sense with him.
Exactly.
And I think LaVine is probably the easiest to fit into another team, but he also has the biggest number. And I don't think a team is necessarily going to look at him as a number one option. I think you look at him as a number two. And if they don't, if he's the number three, do they have the finances and the cap to take on 40? So like, that's to your point. Maybe next offseason, there is a team out there that's in a unique situation where like, hey, for 1 year, we can handle 49 million for whatever reason, right? Like maybe Brooklyn wants to take a step forward for some reason. Like they draft Darren Peterson, Cam Thomas leaves, and they want to get a real bucket getter, with their young guys or something. I don't know. So maybe there's some path out there, but you guys are right. Like it reminds me a little bit of Detroit where they had to get off these guys and they didn't think about Utah's rebuild when they traded Gobert and Donovan Mitchell and got the plethora of draft picks. Now, not that that's necessarily worked out super great for them,
right?
But like, that's one thing we always defended Troy Weaver early on in Detroit was he just had to waive Blake Griffin and they got nothing back for Derrick Rose. Like they didn't trade off stars and get these extra draft picks back to start the rebuild. I'm a little bit nervous Sacramento is going to end up in the same situation where it's like you have your own picks, but you're not getting a plethora of extra ones because you're trading off your quote unquote current stars. You got a little bit from the Fox trade, right? So there's a little bit there.
Yeah.
A little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit.
We were
not as much as they should have. So
yes. The best asset went to that wasn't the Fox trade. Never mind.
Yeah, we just wish they would have waited till the summer. I don't know why they rushed it, but
yeah.
The Fox
trade, we got a hypothetical here since we're on the Sabonis stuff. Kings starting the season rough and they're like, all right, this is not going to work out. Sabonis is disgruntled and, I'm the GM of the Kings. You're the GM of the Pistons. All right. Isaiah Stewart, we give you this offer, Isaiah Stewart, Tobias Harris expiring, 2 first-round picks. They'll say it's 26 and 28, and a second-round pick for Domantas Sabonis and Keon Ellis. We'll throw in Keon too.
Oh. So here's the funny thing, guys. Keon Ellis is the name that excites me in this deal.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to say, and here's why I would say no.
Yeah.
Because then I have to trade Jalen Duren, right? Yeah. I have to do something else with Jalen Duren in that scenario. or bring him off the bench, which he's not going to be happy. He started most of his career, and he's, hitting now because he didn't get an extension. He's going to be on his QO, restricted free agency, all that stuff next offseason that I'm dealing with. I just, again, he's such Sabonis. I don't even know that I like him and Cade paired together, to be quite frank, guys. And I'm going to come off as a Sabonis hater. I don't mean to. I really appreciate the skill set and what he does and all of that. I truly do. There's just certain guys in this league who I think can be really talented, but can be difficult to build around. And so, again, the most exciting thing you said in that conversation was Keon Ellis. I'm like, hey, he pairs really nice to Cade Cunningham, and you put him in a SAR. I just don't think Sabonis makes sense in Detroit.
Yeah.
So
it's hard to think of any teams that really could use him. We were thinking
Warriors, maybe I don't know. I don't even.
He would be interesting just because the way he passes and different things. Yeah. The player that Pistons fans have talked a lot about that you guys have is LaVine. LaVine is the guy that Pistons fans almost as a bridge to the actual number 2 option next to Cade. But pairing LaVine next to Cade, especially where Cade's a good defender for a number 1 option, Asar Thompson's a good defender, stuff like that.
That's actually a really good fit.
It could be next offseason, or maybe at the deadline this year, if nothing else is panning out on the Pistons roster, if Trajan just goes hey, we want proof of concept here. Let's bring in Zach LaVine. We know eventually the contract's going to expire and whatever, but you're not, I'm not giving anything up for that. You know what I mean? That's terrorizing my books, my salary cap situation. And so, I would have to really be talked into that and make sure I could see what that may be hindering me even for a year. So it's tough, guys. Man, I feel bad. Light the Beam was so cool too. That was sick. So
I mean, you don't have to feel bad. We've poo-pooed the front office, the organization. I mean, we've said that this is probably the worst franchise right now. I mean, it was between them or Phoenix. I mean, we're talking as bottom 2. Who would you rather be? So it's been bad, but no, I think LaVine in Detroit would be good. I think LaVine has maybe since the East is wide open this year, if you do get the February as a 1.5-year rental, then maybe that if they could, propel them into, I mean, depending how the East looks and how Detroit's looking, I think that would be a great fit.
Yeah, no, I mean, let's say Detroit just sees hey, we're actually really good.
Yeah.
Cade's top 10 NBA, type player, all NBA again. Asar really comes along defensively, JD, all of these guys. And you're just the thing we're missing is that number, that scorer, right? That wing bucket getter. And we see a path. Maybe there looks like that Cleveland, you could knock Cleveland off. You can make this run if you had that guy. And again, where there's only the 1 more year left on it, maybe you could talk yourself into it. So
yeah, we'll see.
So we know you like another player here from our team. You're very, very high on Malik Monk. He gets around $20 million a year. He signed that $80 million contract for 4 years. But all of a sudden this year, a year after he got that contract, all of a sudden it's undervalued.
Yeah.
What changed so hard in that 1 year, and why is his value so low this year and hard to trade on it?
It really surprised me this offseason, guys. I was just flat out wrong. I mean, he was a name that Detroit, again, got brought up with the whole Dennis Schroeder sign and trade stuff and how that all ended up working out. I think Malik Monk's a good player, man. And to me, it's these really good 6 men. This is about the number that they're getting right now. Maybe it's the high end of it, but I think he's the high end of 6 men in the NBA. I think he's underrated as a passer and a playmaker. I realize there's defensive limitations. Maybe the 3-point percentage isn't as good as what people want. When I watch Kings games, man, my notes are littered with positive things about Malik Monk. And I just think he's a really good third guard, but maybe right now with the aprons and all of that, the league has decided that $20 million a year is too much for a third guard. Maybe I said lead guard. I meant third guard. I apologize. For a third guard. And I think the Golden State thing was more like fit, like just with their roster. Did they need another one
Right.
of those guys? And I don't know where the Kuminga deal with all you got. I think you guys dodged one there. I don't think I don't think you needed to add that to it. Could you imagine right now if Kuminga was on this roster along with Russell Westbrook and everything else we've talked about? So
that'd be pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some little positive, something that the Kings might have done right. Drafted Nique Clifford. This past draft. So I don't know, he looked good in summer league, looked great in the preseason. How do you think? How do you like Nique? I know that I guess the knock on him is really the only thing coming out of Colorado State was his age. So did you see really any other weaknesses in his games that the Kings fans should look forward to this upcoming season? I mean, I think he'll get minutes, but not as much as Kings fans would like. But yeah, what's just your outlook on Nique and how he's been performing and what to look forward to this upcoming season with him?
Yeah, so I just want to give Kings fans some love here and something good to feel about. I had Nique listen, and maybe like, who are you? But I had Nique Clifford 16th on my board. You guys took him at 24. I had Maxime Raynaud at 28th on my board.
Okay.
You guys took him at 42. So there's some positive NBA draft love from me. I think he's a versatile wing. He's an advantage exploiter. He makes things happen. He's always involved in what's going on. This dude, I loved his college film. And here's the other thing. I didn't love him. I evaluated him the year before for the 2024 draft. And I was like, I don't know. And then I came back in 2025 and just fell in love with him every time I watched him play. He played a lot on the ball at Colorado State. They needed him to do that, which I think plays well because he also did all the off the ball things. He understands movement and relocation. I think he can knock down catch and shoot shots. But as an advantage exploiter, when he gets a closeout to attack or you need him to run a second side ball screen, he already has all of those things. And then I think he's a good defender. He was a good defender in college, and I think he'll be a better defender in the NBA when he doesn't have as much on-ball usage. So he has awareness and engagement. He understands scheme and rotations. He's an impactful rebounder. Like, I just love that. I don't know that he's like a perimeter stopper on the ball, but I think he's a guy that just like fits into a defensive scheme and is going to help it and really fit in well and improve it. So I really like the kid. I think he's a good player. I understand the age thing and maybe like there's not all of this upside or whatever, but continue to draft versatile wings. You guys actually have a really interesting group of young versatile wings between Keegan, Keon, Nique. It's not a bad start if you can figure out the higher end talent aspect of the roster.
Yeah. Did you have a player comp to him, or do you do player comps?
I don't do player comps unless I like just have one that really fits. You know what I mean? Because it's like, because if what I feel like is when people try to force them, then that's when you end up with either they're nowhere close or it's like it's shades of this guy plus this guy if he can do this or whatever. And so some guys like I watch and it just hits, and then some guys it's like I'm not really sure. So I try to just do the archetype profile, like I say, like versatile wing, or whatever. So
okay, fair enough. Do you also you talked about Maxime Raynaud, second round pick. What did you like about him coming out of Stanford? I know he's a 7-footer that could shoot, so that alone is just a profile that's definitely needed in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, he's skilled and has some creativity. He has legit size. He has the ability to finish. He'll give you a shot fake. He can use his left hand, understands position. He's like, here's the thing that I loved about Maxime is like, you think about big and it's like, oh, pick and pop. Well, Maxime can do that, but he also can just like truly play off the ball. Like he can just go stick him in the corner and he can relocate and space the floor that way. The mechanics are a touch funky, talking about mechanics.
Right.
So we'll see how that plays out. And then I just thought he was a little better positionally defensively than what people gave him credit for. Okay. A lot of people really questioned like his movement ability and he was just going to get torched defensively and stuff like that. I understand that, but I think he has real length. And I think he understands positioning and how to use his length. I'll give you an example. Yannick Conan Niederhauser, who got drafted by the Clippers, has crazy length. but has
Right.
no idea how to use it right now. Like his hands are always down at his sides and stuff like that. I thought Maxime was really good understanding how to use his length. So I thought maybe he'd be able to at least survive defensively and then really provide value offensively. And I think that's at least a backup big in the NBA, which I think in the second round is great value.
Yeah.
It's still, yeah.
100%. Since we are talking about older like draft picks and stuff like that, the Kings have been doing it like almost like the last like 4 years or so. You know, Devin Carter 22, Keegan was 21, Davion was 23, Nique's 23. You know, Maxime. Like, do you like when teams do this? Is it like should we be worried, or is it like it's not? It's like case by case basis kind of thing. Like, you know.
Yeah. So I was trying to think. Keegan was what, the highest of all of those picks?
4th pick, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was trying to think, like, even in that draft, what, like, you passed on, like,
Ivy.
J.I. was
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the big one.
Shaden,
Sharp. Mhm.
like, nobody was talking J-Dub at the time that high.
No.
So I was just trying to think, like, where they're picking. I don't know that it's,
Yeah.
you know, that it's bad,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that Keegan draft was very unique. Like he
Mhm.
was widely regarded as, you know, like it
Yeah.
was him and J.I. and those guys were
Mhm.
all in that range anyway.
Yeah.
You know, maybe 3 years from now, we're like, man, they just that team could have used Shaden Sharp, and you know, if he's averaging 23 or 25 a game or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that was the time to take the upside swing on things. But at that time, with where the organization was, maybe they didn't feel like it. So,
Mhm.
I don't mind them taking like good quality basketball players.
Mhm.
But at some point they may have to, right? Like they may
Right.
have to take that swing for the fences draft pick, irregardless of where they end up in the draft.
Yeah, because like I always just worry about the trajectory. Like, is it like probability wise? Like, if you're getting like a senior or junior, juniors, like it, like they're gonna be the trajectory is a little bit. How do I say this? It's just like the trajectory is a little bit lower than like if you're getting a freshman or sophomore or something.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair in terms of just like the ceiling and the upside
Right.
and all of that. Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think it's just gonna depend on when they decide to do what we've been talking about,
Yeah.
right? Like when do
Mhm.
they decide to go ahead and make the move that needs to be made to go out and acquire that player? And it is probably most likely in the draft. And so you're gonna have to, I don't want to say tank. I hate that. Like
Yeah.
you have to find a way to hit on a draft pick, man. You gotta
Right.
find a way to hit on a draft pick.
Fair enough.
All right. So we talked about Nique, Maxime, these guys that we're looking forward to. Is there any other things that we've missed that we're looking forward to for the Kings this season that you can mention and give some more positivity for the season to look forward to?
I mean, I will say this about Russell Westbrook, like he
Mhm.
does like bring energy. I actually live in Kansas. So the closest place to me is Denver Nuggets games. So I think I was at 3 Nuggets games last year, and like you could see the energy Russ brings, you know, to a
Yeah.
game in the middle of the season and whatever. Like I don't know how it's going to play out on the court. Hopefully it works as well between him and Sabonis as it did with him and Jokic. But there is a real like influx of, hey, he's going to bring up the level of energy and competitiveness and all of that. Now, if they're not winning, it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. That could, end up bad. But I don't know. I had this question, like what's the starting lineup? I mean, is
I think it's
is
just gonna be
Schroeder
Schroeder.
starting?
Yeah.
yeah,
It
yeah,
has to be. They gave him too
Schroeder.
much
yeah.
money.
So
Yeah.
him, Levine, DeRozan,
DeRozan.
who's starting
Keegan.
until Keegan gets back?
That's a question mark that's been happening. It could be Dario Saric has been that might be the guy that they might go
Unbelievable.
with at the
I just
beginning.
realized like how short on kind of like forward bodies you guys are
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no
without Keegan.
And Sabonis is out for a
wings.
few games too.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
Sabonis
I
is
mean,
out for a
Keon
few games.
might start at the 2, so it'd be Schroeder, Keon maybe, and
Yeah,
then
like a very small lineup,
Levine,
And
very
very
go small,
small.
like
Yeah, Levine, DeRozan,
DeRozan,
I don't know.
DeRozan at the 4 and
Yeah, and then
starting Eubanks at
Domas.
center.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they did start Sarge last preseason game, but let's just hope that was an experimental because yeah, Sarge is absolutely washed at this point in his career. So yeah,
Really
you
played
could
up.
that alone tells you how bad it's looking like for the Kings and why
Gosh dang,
fans aren't
guys.
too optimistic this year.
I'm sorry.
Um,
That was a
it,
bad question
yeah,
to go to.
yeah,
Well, it's just
we're
like it's been like this for years, like just getting wings and fours that they haven't been able to do it. Like, and so it's just been tough to with the positional wise and how they're organizing the team.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
that's where Kuminga does make sense, I guess, just positionally. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like just like body type
Yeah.
wise, even though I don't love like the basketball fit aspect of it, he would have made sense,
Let's
you
actually
know.
talk about that real quick because
Sure.
I actually kind of liked Kuminga, and
Okay.
it might be a possibility in the future. Let's maybe we'll see, but just because Kuminga, like I kind of like thinking about a Keon, Keegan, and Kuminga lineup like that. That's pretty like that's just totally different than what we've seen. We're so offensive centric the last few years. That would be a really good like defensive minded team, and at least like Kuminga has like potential like an upside compared to like most of our guys. So that's why we kind of liked him, but. I don't know if you want to talk about like why you wouldn't you can
Well,
counter that, I guess. Yeah.
my counter would be I just don't like him on this roster. If you told
Yeah.
me that like
Mm,
Levine's gone, DeRozan's gone, Schroeder's gone, like
Yeah.
all of these guys are gone, and you're just gonna lean into like, hey, let's see if Kuminga can come in here and average 25 a
Yeah.
game,
yeah.
and we'll insulate him with really good defenders, and then figure it out from there. I don't know that I love it, but I'm a little more into that. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't like the idea. I didn't like the idea of adding Kuminga to okay, the ball's in DeRozan's hands in the mid range and
Yeah.
Domas's
That's
hands
fair.
and Schroeder's pounding the ball, trying to run ball screens and all of that. In
Yeah.
a different world with a different roster construction, sure, let's take the swing on it, right? Like
Mhm.
we've gotten rid of all of those guys. We're playing our young guys and our good wing defenders. Yeah, let's see if Kuminga can cook and if he does have this upside as a 20 plus point per game scorer and then figure it out from there, right? Like is he a number
Right.
1 option? Okay, maybe he's actually the number 2 option. How do we go get the number 1 option but he can still fit.
Mhm.
So, that's kind of where I stood with Kuminga, I guess.
Hmm,
No, that makes sense. That's pretty
that's fair.
fair. Um, do you have a hot take or bold prediction for this team for this season? You guys had the
Yeah,
bold
you guys got the
predictions,
bold predictions, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
was hoping
Pistons
for a
Kings
Kings one.
specific, yeah.
I mean,
So
I don't even
you don't have to. You don't have
no, I was
anything.
gonna look if because I didn't say all of mine
Yeah.
Oh, like if
on
it's
the
part of
pod.
the list, yeah.
I my extended list still stayed away from the Sacramento Kings.
Smart.
There was a question that's kind of related to it, like over or under 1.5 players get traded by the trade
Ooh,
line.
1.5.
Yeah. Like, cause we were thinking like we could talk about like DeMar. Like we think like we're hoping that DeMar is one of them for sure, kind of
So
thing
that's
by trade
yes.
deadline.
I could see DeMar getting moved.
Yeah, and then maybe he has to pair with someone. I don't know. It's
I'm
tough.
trying to I don't see I'm
Yeah,
Like,
DeMar's
yeah,
salary definitely. I mean, 25 million is still a lot though, but
yeah,
yeah.
his
I'm
salary
gonna
is the most
say
reasonable.
I mean, I think other guys could get moved in the DeMar
right.
trade, which then it would be over.
Over.
But
Yeah.
just in
Yeah.
terms of number of trades, I would go under.
Okay.
Okay.
I think Domas and Levine get taken into the offseason.
Mm,
Maybe DeMar gets traded and maybe other guys are attached to that in some capacity to get you over the 1.5 players, but under 1.5 just total trades, if that makes sense.
no, it makes
Yeah.
sense. Agree with that.
But yeah, I think that's all that's all our questions that we ran through for this pod. We appreciate you coming on,
Yeah.
Bryce. Do you got anything to plug before you go?
Yeah, real quick. So, Motor City Hoops Twitter, Blue Sky, Motor City Hoops Substack. Kings fans, don't subscribe to it. Just go check it out after the games when the Pistons and Kings play. I'll have some good content for you over there where I have notes about not just the Pistons but the
Yeah.
team they play. Game Theory podcast, obviously, and then the Game Theory Substack. You guys check it out. That one does cost But we have really good content over there. NBA draft breakdowns. It's all video stuff. NBA draft video breakdowns. I'll be doing video breakdowns. So a game where they go for 150 this year, I'll be breaking it down or something like that. So consider checking that out, and definitely the podcast as well. That's fully free. YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all of that stuff. So I had a lot of fun, guys. I appreciate you a lot, and definitely would love to come back once we get into the season if you ever need me.
Awesome.
Definitely
Appreciate it, Bryce.
it, Bryce.
Thanks everyone for joining. Appreciate you guys. Take care.
Thanks, guys.